Hello and welcome back, guys. This is Ibrahim Quraishi here, and let's continue on our session on storage. As I gave an introduction session last week or week before actually, where I showed you my playlist how to create your own storage if you are practicing on your lab. I hope you already set it up, and let's get started on storage. Now, what are we going to cover today? We'll look at it in a minute, but before going to that, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and click like for getting new updates. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Ibrahim Quraishi, and I've been teaching virtualization since 3 years on YouTube now. And if you want to go through detailed blogs which I have done, you can check out my blog, which is agileops.co.uk. So let's get started. So I am not going to go through the course content. You will find it in the last session as well. I have done that. Now today's topic we are going to cover, as you can see here, module 4 we are doing storage, and today's topic we are going to cover quite a few topics, but one thing I wanted to highlight is we are not going to cover all these in today's session. What we are going to learn is, again, I know a lot of people are very new to virtualization, so I have to take it one step at a time. So this is why I'm going to cover adding a new LUN or a data store, and then we will look into probably in the next session we'll look into extending a existing data store, and then I'll show you how to create a data store cluster. If you have more than one data stores, we can do that. Now some of you might wonder, what is a data store, right? What exactly is data store, or why do we need storage? So I have covered a little bit of that in previous session. If you haven't seen that, please go and check that out. I'll try to touch base on the topic again a little bit more on the coming slides, but then we will also cover some advanced topic like removing a data store. It's not advanced as such, but I guess for a VMware administrator it's good to know how to remove a data store when you need to decommission one, or when you want to give it back to the storage guys and ask them to replace it with a bigger one maybe. So if you have a 1 TB LUN and you want it to you want to give it back to them and ask them to replace it with a 2 terabyte one or something like that. And lastly, obviously, before finishing the entire topic of storage, which I want to introduce you guys with something called RDMs, which is raw device mapping. This is very useful when you're doing Microsoft clustering for quorum disk and stuff like that, so we'll look into that a little bit. They have been other ways of doing it, like NAS shares and stuff like that, or just file share. We can do that with but VMware basically allows you to do raw device mapping, which is basically directly presenting the storage to the guest OS, not the ESX host. Obviously it will be presented to the ESX host, all of the hosts within the cluster, but you don't actually format it with VMFS, and we basically then just attach it to the guest OS, which could be Linux or Windows. We will do a demo on that on Windows probably. So let's get into it. So shared storage advantages. One of the advantages, basically, you are not running the VM on the local host where you're running ESX, so it's not running on the local disk of the ESX, which gives you an advantage because your VMs are stored in a remote storage array, right? So all your host can access access the VMs or the storage arrays or data stores from there. All the hosts can access it. A bit like the diagram I showed you before. Let me see whether I can get a pen. So you have your storage array here. It's a pretty bad diagram, and then you have your ESX host probably running here. Let's say we have 3 hosts. So these hosts are talking to your storage, and the VMs are actually within here. So if this VM is running CPU and memory compute on this host and it dies, all the, like this one and this one, these two ESX hosts can power it on, and that can only happen if you have shared storage, right? So this is another reason. So and again, if this host dies and it is running this VM on the local storage, there's no way these two can power this VM on, right? Because it's running on the local storage and it has been lost, because up until you fix this host, you will not be able to power on this VM. Simple as that. Does it make sense? Yeah. So that's another reason. So okay, that's why I wrote it safe from host failures. Now other features or other advantages which you can leverage if you're using obviously shared storage is high availability, which is HA. In short, it's called HA in VMware. What that does is basically exactly what I explained here. If you have a host failure here and your VM is running and it's in the storage, it is powered on either on here or here. That is HA. That is exactly what it is. We'll look into this deeper in the next sessions when I'm covering the next module, which is going to be advanced topic like high availability, and the other one which is distributed resource scheduler. Now I don't want to touch or discuss more about distributed resource scheduler because it takes us off topic. So let's go to the next slide. How do we do that? Next. Okay, so shared storage, again, you might have noticed on your vCenter you have something like this, which is storage or a disk, right? So this basically is a tab which is in your data center, and you will have all the storages. Even if it is a local data store of your ESX, you'll find it here, and anything related to data store, you'll find it here. So this is where when we provision a data store, you will find it here. What you can do along with that is obviously you have first thing, as I said, data store here. You can also create a data store cluster, similarly how we have a ESX host cluster. So you can have one data store and another one, and then obviously you can create a cluster and add this one and this one, both of them in that cluster. So what happens, VM in here, like how VM move from compute from one host, ESX host, to the other one, when they are struggling with CPU and memory, they move from here to here. Similarly, VMs which are here, if there is enough not enough storage, free space on this particular data store, which can be the case, because this is only, like, the reason I have provisioned this only 100 gig is to prove that. So this is only having 100 gig, and if I provision more VMs here, they will automatically detect that there is another data store which is having 800 GB free, and it's a 1 terabyte one, and they will start doing storage vMotions. That means they will move this VM which is stored on this location to here. So that is called storage vMotion, and that can only happen again if you have advanced features and advanced licensing, which allows you to do storage clustering. And then just as a convenient to tidy up, if you want, you can create a folder, data store folder, and then obviously keep all of those storage within that folder. That's something you can do as well. Okay, so hope you understood these topic. Data store, what is a data store? Data store is storage, really. That's all it is. In reality, from the storage admin side, it's just a LUN, logical unique number, which you call in the storage world, and over here it's just called a data store, and then you can have data store cluster and data store folders. So let's get to the next one. A little bit neater diagram, I guess, which I drew, which was very untidy. So we have storage here, and then it is connected to your ESX servers, and if this ESX dies, your VMs are basically running here, so that it can be powered on this particular host. Okay, and again, this is the same setup I have on my lab as well. Two ESX hosts and shared storage. And then obviously you can see the vCenter here. The vCenter is basically essential for enabling or setting up these sort of permissions to work with HA, high availability, and stuff like that. You can, however, have a single host and attach storage directly to it, but you won't be able to do a lot with it. By the way, for those of you who have already installed FreeNAS, I think I was just going through the website and I just noticed that FreeNAS and basically TrueNAS and FreeNAS are unite. Can you see that? And they basically are now combined. Even on the FreeNAS org, if you go, you will see that they basically are advertising the same. So I don't know whether you have installed this, but this is what I'm running. I'm running FreeNAS this product here, FreeNAS, on my lab as shared storage. But what they are saying is TrueNAS Core is the new FreeNAS. So yeah, there's some news over here. I guess obviously this has been a while ago, because someone who was working on my who was learning from my channel did message to me that they tried TrueNAS and it worked fine by following the tutorial. Okay, so first thing we need to do on our vCenter server, basically you can see you have your cluster, you have your ESX host here. So the first and foremost thing you need to do when you're provisioning storage is basically just go and check the storage. Let's leave all that alone and let's only focus on this much. So let's see, we have our storage. We can see we have management DSO1 and DSO2. So if I select on DSO1, this is the data store coming from the NAS, and you can see it's the 1 terabyte one which I was talking about. One thing I would suggest is we have to start working as a professional, when we are working in a professional environment, you need to follow certain practices and best practices. So always remember, even if you're creating your lab, try to create a naming convention and use a same method to follow everywhere you're doing, so it will be consistent and it will look tidy. So obviously my data stores which I have created, which are from FreeNAS, is basically MGMT, DSO1 and O2. Now we are going to go and create a third one. So I did provision one just now, so I have quite a lot provisioned in my infrastructure. So first thing we need to do is, as I know I have checked it, I have provisioned it, and I know it is provisioned. You will be, if you're working in an organization, you will be just requesting it from your storage team, and once they acknowledge that the storage is presented to your host, obviously on your side you might need to give them the cluster name or the ESX names where you want it to be provisioned. And once that is done, all you do is you basically go right click and go to storage and rescan storage. So that's the first thing you will do. So when you rescan the storage, basically it will rescan all the devices. So it says scan all the host bus adapter, which is HBAs, for new storage, and rescan all the adapters. And also you need to be mindful. Normally I would do this exercises after working hours, after 5:30 or 6 o'clock if you are having 9 to 5 production timings. Also it shouldn't impact much. Obviously in older versions I worked with, like version 5.0, we used to have sometimes host used to get hung when we were doing these tasks. So this is why I would advise still to be cautious around that. And the other thing is it will also scan for new VMFS volumes. What that means is if you already have a data store and you basically have provisioned it but you have extended it in the background, then you can basically rescan it and you can then able to extend it. So you click on OK and you'll see that it is scanning HBA, and that's done. See how quick it is in version 7, and rescan VMFS is also done. Now once that is done and aside, then you can go and select new storage. Now for the purpose of the demo, because I want to include how to extend it as well, how to extend the data store, if it is like, if the screen is not showing you any content, just try to reduce it to 90%. Chrome can do it when you press the control and if you have a mouse scroller, just scroll down and then you can do it, or you will see the plus and minus and then you can just do it from here, like that. So what we are going to do is we are going to select VMFS, which is the VMware file system which we will be using on the data store, and this will be VMFS 6 of course. But once you select the first one and click on next, you can see the data store. So this is the data store which I have presented, and I have given it a LUN ID 3, and that's what you're seeing at the moment. But the naming convention, as I was just talking about, I want to name it according to my infrastructure. So a management DSO3, because it's the third LUN which I'm presenting. And then once you do that, it's just click next, and then you select whether you want VMFS 5 or VMFS 6. So VMFS 5 was used when you're using version 6 or version 6.5. It is still supported in version 7 and version 6.7. I would advise, if you're provisioning a new LAN, I would advise you to provision it with VMFS 6 for sure, because it has a lot of features, automatic reclamation and all that, and again, obviously there is no easy way to decommission or migrate from VMFS 5. The only way you can do it, I will show you in one of the videos as well, is basically decommission the old LAN, delete it and recommission it again, or reprovision it again, in other words. And then when you reprovision it again, you just go through the same process what we are doing today in provisioning a new LAN, and then you select VMFS 6 like this, and then click next. Over here, as I said, I'm going to use the as less space as possible. Let's create a 20 gig LAN and leave the 80 gig remaining. So I can do another session with you guys how to extend it to maybe 40 gig in the next session. Okay, so click next. So that's only 20 gig we are formatting now, and that's the summary, which is saying, okay, we are basically going to have a 20 gig LAN presented. All you have to do is click finish, and that's it. You can see the LAN getting added here, and it's basically obviously not going to give you entire 20 gig, so it's giving you 18 gig here. Okay, so let's quickly look at our agenda. Did I mention about extending a data store? Okay, I will quickly do an extension of the data store. So that basically covers two topics for today's session. Again, this is your LAN which you have. You can click on it and you can go to summary, and you can see that it is like free 18 gig. You can even start moving VMs if you want to. So let me see whether we have any VM here which I can move. Let's pick one which is very tiny. Let's pick this one. It's not even powered on. I don't really care whether it's powered on or not at this moment, but you could potentially move powered on VM as well. So I'm just powering it on now for you. You can see that it's powered on, and then you just select migrate, so that's powered on. And then over here, when you're migrating for storage migration, you have seen in the past as well, we select change storage only, and then click next, and then you select the new LAN which we have, and there you go. It's saying compatibility check succeeded, and it is having 1.4 provision space and 18 gig free space, so it's enough. It's only 2 gig VM, and then we can just move it to this particular LAN, and it shouldn't take much time. I'm just going to pause this video for the purpose of saving time. Okay, so we can see that is 63% done. It's still here. So as I was saying, we can extend this LAN now. Over the period of time, obviously you got a LAN which is provisioned, you have provisioned some VMs like I have done here on my data store here, and you found that it is getting filled up and you have very less space. In my situation, obviously I haven't used this much. We still have 800 gig capacity, but let's assume this new LAN which we have provisioned is a huge LAN, like 1 terabyte, and you have basically filled up or almost all of it. It only have like 200 gig remaining, and you are getting alerts. So VMware by default sends you or highlights an alert when you use up to 80% capacity. You can modify this, but say for example you have used 80% capacity, so that's when it starts giving you warnings. Once you get the warning, obviously you will be responsible for it. You will need to extend it or move those VM to a different LAN and free up some space. So there you go, the migration is done. So we can go and click here, and that is our VM running here. And if you go and click on summary, now we no longer have 18 gig free, we only have 14 gig free. Similarly, if I move a couple of more VMs, it can go 100, it can take up all pretty much all the space. And if you are having snapshots and stuff, it's always good practice to have a little bit of breathing space. You need to have at least around about I would say 30 to 20% free space on each LUN. Really, I know it's expensive to have a lot of free space lying around doing nothing, but again, you never know, because we do a lot of thin provisioning. At least in my lab, I do a lot of thin provisioning. This VM basically is also thin provisioned. If you click here, you can see how much thin provisioning we are doing. So use space, and we can see how much is the provision space is 102 gig. So if I provision 102 gig already, this LUN is not able to support it because it's only 20 gig. So that's the beauty of virtualization. You can thin provision things. So this is only using 4 gig. This is why it's basically showing it's using 4 gig. So let's go ahead and do our next topic, work on our next topic, which is, so we have seen how to create a LUN. That's done. So the next topic is extending an existing data store. So we have now got our own data store. Let's extend it. So the process is similar. Obviously, you will need to ask your storage admins to expand it from the storage side. Now I have cleverly provisioned it only 20 gig so that I can show you again, but they can extend it from their side as well. They can expand the data store on the storage, and then all you have to do is similar to what we did initially. Right click, excuse me, and rescan. Right click and rescan, select storage and rescan data store. Once the rescan is done, we select the data store which we want to extend, and then we can see, you can see something called increase data store capacity. Select that, and there you go. You will see the extended capacity from your storage side. When they have extended it, you just select next. You can for me, obviously you can see that I have 80 gig available. I will basically say to extend it to maybe 50 gig in total, so we still have some remaining. And then actually no, let's make it 30 gig and finish. So now you will see your data store is, future data store size will be this much, because we are extending another 30 gig. That's what I have put, to extend another 30 gig. So in total you will be getting 50 gig on the data store. So always remember, this size which you are putting in is what you're increasing. So if I only want to increase this 20 gig data store to 30 gig, then basically I will be adding another 10 gig here. And then if you click next, you'll see 29. Yep. So once that's done, you can just click on the data store again and then click refresh, and there you go. Capacity has gone to 29 instead of 19. Before it was 19. So that's all folks for today, and hope you enjoyed the session. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. And if you are using your home lab and you are struggling to set up FreeNAS, or if you have any issues with CPU and memory like resources, you can always use my lab. There on my blog you can find it online, VMware and Cisco labs. So check it out, and you can email me to get more information how to access my lab. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for new updates. Question for today is, what is the importance of storage? So there's a lot of things which I have discussed, mentioned that in the session. Cheers. Hope you enjoy watching and keep sharing, guys. Cheers. Bye.